Smoke salmon, all those waves.
Is everyone here that we're expecting? Karen?
Yeah.
I think actually Rick. Sorry. Said
Pretty good.
the only one online.
Yes, I believe so. A little bit.
I hope I got rid of the echo. Helen, can you still hear us?
Yes. Good.
So that's
Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming today. All meeting of the Board of Directors of the Scarborough Economic Development Corporation in order. Item number 2 on the agenda is approvals. Karen, this is last meeting's minutes and
the financial report is also here. Since some of you, or all of you, did not get this ahead of time, since I sent the wrong file, it's up to you if you'd like to wait on approving. It's totally up to you guys. I don't think we had anything.
well, is there anything you want to?
Nothing unusual. Thank you, Micah. This is the person who produces them for us. So,
On budget?
yeah.
Okay.
We're certainly winding down since the fiscal year is before us.
Okay, I move to approve the meeting summary, last meeting summary and financial report. All in favor? Any opposed?
And just FYI, the last time we did not do the April because I wanted to make sure Micah had a chance to look at this again. I don't think anything changed from the last time. So your approval, since it had April and May in there, includes both months. I probably should have told you that for you, actually. Seconded, but if anybody wants to withdraw or make a motion to reconsider.
You're feeling better.
I am. I'm back. So it's I got it. My kids got it. My son brought it from school. So, and my husband didn't get it, and he's immunocompromised. So there we go.
Yeah. I would just say it was a long 3 weeks without her.
Oh wow. Yeah, I got it. Like I was in bed for like 5 days. I got everything coughing, and it's just like yeah. It was tough. It was like everything, and I was vaccinated, like 3 doses and everything.
For me, I still
My husband did the same thing.
Yeah, the impact.
Some real suffering.
Yeah.
Real suffering. Yeah, I know.
Right. So I do, speaking of coconut, we're back to sort of everybody use their own knives for.
But I
sharing
tested.
the,
I'm good.
You're invincible for a little while.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah.
We're going to dinner, we're going bowling.
Drinking after people, you know.
There's some stuff we can do.
Well,
I don't want to burst anybody of bubbles, but I have a friend whose mother got it twice in 6 weeks. Within 6 weeks. And she didn't get sick this first time. She got a little sick, but didn't get really sick the second time. So just not to burst any bubbles, but
Right.
caution.
Plus, what was the report yet? The story yesterday, there's a whole new strain 5 and 6. It's like, good.
Yep.
And they always start in South Africa.
Seems like they have the best track.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, item 3, GMO exemption request and staff update.
Well, we're all looking at Tom. I think the update is there isn't
Let's do
any.
this.
I think there really isn't any update other than you guys are continuing to work. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, we have come up with a term sheet, if you will, that needed a fair amount of fleshing out. So we work with the town attorneys, plural, and do have at least an initial draft that John and I looked at, providing feedback to. So I would hope as soon as tomorrow we'll be there'll be some back and forth, I presume. Could be as soon as next week, and next week we have something to share publicly.
That's great.
As council seen.
No,
It wasn't basically.
we'll share it with them. Somewhat before, not much, a day before something. Yeah, it's been a challenge. I was talking to Travis the way up. Our strategy has really been to hold things off and make sure people see the entire package, because it's easy to kind of pick things apart or have issues that you need to see it in totality. So it's been hard updating people to keep that they and not really seeing the package. So we're anxious to get to this next step. And the only way I know is the council's going to do a workshop to kind of introduce it to the council and to the public. Presumably sometime in June. And I think our intentions there would be the Downs would not be part of that conversation for us to review the documents and have some general conversation on it for education purposes.
We didn't know by that point their reaction to the church. So.
Well, by the time it sees the light of day, it's gonna be both parties' basic needs, whether or not it gains full council supports.
Do you have a concept of how long of a viewing time there's going to be?
I would be surprised if they try to play it out in the summer.
Okay.
And to the extent that Downs can be patient, that was 6 months ago, frankly. History suggests the more process we can layer it around, the better it is for success. It removes the simple argument that we rushed in or that we've not taken enough time to consider all the input you should. It's an easy criticism. Just remind us they submitted this on October 27th. So we'll end this. It's not very much. But of course, with the new council elected, it does require a supermajority, so 5 votes are needed to pass this. And exactly, we've got some challenges. Current opposition.
And I know Counselor starts.
At the next meeting, I suspect it's just a function of the charter. The new councilors start at the second meeting following the election. And so last night was our first meeting. Our next one is regular meeting will be July 20, but I'm sure we'll do a special meeting.
And the council's gone back to one meeting for July and
Yeah, they always
August.
do, but
Yeah.
Sometimes yeah. That's the update.
Anything else on staff, Karen?
No, we're just,
Planner search.
I think applications have closed. Is that correct?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're talking town staff? I thought we sent those down.
No, it's everybody, all staff.
Yeah, planning director position is closed. We're hoping to do first round interviews next week sometime. I don't have a ton of candidates. I think we have 600, which is very small. But 4 of whom are highly qualified. So actually get them.
From Maine.
Only one in state, one in Massachusetts, one in Texas. Yep. So disappointed with the turnout, but it's really a function of the labor market. We're seeing it in all positions. Senior level or every level. It's just I don't know what people are. I don't know what they're doing.
I think there's just a sense of nervousness about moving around in some respects. You don't know what's going to happen is my guess.
I would just caution with the
Cost of
relocation
relocation.
costs. Relocation. We just went through it.
What's the plan for Mr. Smith? I mean, Mr. Shaw.
Similar track. We closed that position. I think got 8 candidates, 3 internal. And again, I think we interview soon next week to get that started.
Okay.
And then
Is that
yeah, it works. And then the newest news is Ruth Porter, a longtime finance director. She's been with us for years. She started the town before we had a budget of $8 million. should feel like our current budget is certainly over 100 million. So I'm a little fearful of just all she's seen and done and touched in that course of that time. She's seen this town really grow into the organization. So that would be a real key position.
When is she leaving?
She'd like to give me, a good transition period with the hire, so we'll do that process started. So it'll be in the summer for the fall, if all things will go. Yeah, it is. It is.
That's key to key positions.
Don't start looking at the manager.
Believe me,
Yeah.
Police chief, fire chief,
Yeah.
public works, planning,
Right.
It's long standing.
yes.
Yes. And Ruth is, I think we said at the staff meeting, I will tell you, Ruth is amazing in terms of her ability to pull unbelievable facts from giant stacks of everything, like handwritten notes from 10 years ago, and she'll know exactly where they are. And this is what happened at this X meeting. And that's institutional knowledge that can't be transferred, I don't think. So,
Anxious times, just to sort this out.
yes.
It's also a huge opportunity. I've seen this in my career. It's interesting if you're able to survive in a place long enough. Just through attrition, things happen. And though I came in and inherited a tremendously talented staff, and I was no concerned with whatsoever, it's always interesting to kind of go through that and kind of assemble your own team too. So I'm excited in that regard.
It took a jab, but I do have to say that the big thing with the turnovers has been volatile.
Yes.
It hasn't been, it hasn't been a turnover that has, I think out of all of those people, only one person, Jay, primarily, is the only one left. It's kind of taken another job. Everybody else is retired. So not much you can do about that.
Right. And, planning director in a community like Scarborough is that's like a 24/7 job. So it's a tough job. So,
Don't say that in the interview.
right. Yeah.
No, for the right candidate, I think they'll see it as a tremendous opportunity.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's a great variety, there's a fast pace, there's some really interesting stuff
Right.
happening.
Absolutely.
Comes with that is
Right.
something that-
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, from, staff, we're just a ton of small little things, just putting out fires. We are trying to help out a little bit more with the long range planning committee, which I've always sat on. So I'm trying to keep that moving until we get the new planner in place. And so there's a couple of things moving through there, plus going back and working on keeping them focused on the comprehensive plan implementation. So they have, I invited them to take the month of July off and they declined. So they are raring to go to start their real work and dig in with the comp plan, which is great. That's what you want in a committee, that they're enthusiastic and really want to get working. And other than that, it's just a ton of smaller projects of people needing some direct assistance and help. So that's essentially the update. There's a couple of larger projects that are in the works that I hope to be able to tell you about by mid to late summer. And those are requiring a little bit of time as well to keep them moving and happy and hopefully coming to a point where they want to actually move forward. And then, of course, just working on getting the annual meeting going, because we forget sometimes. There's a little bit of work to do with that. We'll start our fundraising really at the end of this month, and hopefully we'll be sort of back. Last year was a little bit off because it was last year, and enough said on that. So hopefully we'll be back up to really about $10,000. We were at 9,000 last year, so I do want to get it back up to 10 this year. Black Point Inn is happy. We do still need to work out the issues of parking, which I'm gonna wait a little bit longer to figure that one out. But we may need to avail ourselves of, the town's community services bus. So we'll see what happens. I'm trying to convince them that they should just let it go for one more night. But they seem reluctant. Apparently, we locked out some of their overnight guests the last time we did this. Their overnight guests had to be parked someplace else. So
Aren't we expecting somewhat smaller crowd?
trying to keep it to 100, but
versus
they,
150 years ago,
yep, but they are,
or 3 years ago?
yeah, I know, time
Yeah.
flies when you're having so much fun. They're asking for a commitment to just 50 cars. So that one's hard, but we'll work with it.
Could we do Camp Ketchup parking? Is that what you were thinking is?
Either Camp Ketchup or Ferry Beach.
Oh,
You have some experience driving a bus?
I know.
You need somebody.
Excellent.
well, and Pepper Shore.
Great.
Would they allow us to park at the golf club? There's two different lots down below the end.
It's been a while, but I remember a few years ago there was a that was not possible. Now, whether that remains the same, I don't know. So it is yes, it
It's just a
absolutely.
short walk.
Yeah.
And might we think about Highland Greenhouse again for the following year?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Part of the reason we're back at Black Point Inn is, remember, we had made a deposit, so we're using the deposit that we had from 2021. Yes, because in 2020 we had, but when we decided that to cancel, we had not made a deposit at that point. But 2021 we were about where we are now, and things were good, and we thought everything would be in order, so we made the deposit, and then we wound up switching it. But again, they graciously carried it over, and that's what we're using for this year, or 2022. I think that's it. Oh, we did have a good conversation.
Yeah, so just continuing on first off, does anyone have any questions for Tom or Karen on anything they just discussed?
I just wanted to speak back to the, I was remiss in not bringing this up earlier to this board. You might recall last time when Dan Bacon left, when we were in the interim position, Karen stepped up, who was actually named the planning director. We decided not to do that this time.
This year.
So we're kind of attacking it through a number of different ways. And Karen mentioned there's a couple of key things that she is picking up. So I just wanted to make sure the boards are there, and I very much appreciate Karen stepping into those areas. Luckily, there are areas that she's been pretty heavily involved with already, so it's not a big curve. All the other stuff we're kind of treating as it comes and kind of triaging it, sending it out to everything real development.
I think maybe the interesting piece, which we still need to meet with Tom, but there's a discussion about off-track betting, because original Scarborough Downs stopped off-track betting in May of 2022. And so there are others that are coming forward that would like to do off-track betting. And we're trying to figure that out, because it's not really, it originally is tethered to the harness racing. They could do it because they already had it, and they were continuing to do that even though they stopped. So whether it's a grandfathered use at the site, we're not, working through with the attorneys to see whether or not what happens. But licenses are not transferable.
I
So
suspect there's also a prequel to sport betting, which is
Yes.
imminent.
yes,
There must be some connection there.
yes. And sports betting, we've been doing a little work around that as well. Our understanding is there's rulemaking going on, probably 8 months or so away from understanding how sports betting is going to work. And that's the other question too with sports betting. It may not be possible in Scarborough I believe the legislation still requires it to be tethered to an existing facility. if we don't have an existing facility, yeah, so there's lots of rulemaking in the works, and we'll have to see what that means. But I think there are some folks that are interested in both sports betting and the off-track betting.
Is that gonna require?
No, I don't believe so.
Yep, to have,
Could be a zone change.
yes, if it's not grandfathered at the dams, then it would require, because the way the zoning ordinance reads is it specifically excluded video gambling and off-track betting. It didn't mention sports betting. So that's part of what we're trying to assess is what does sports betting look like? I mean, what is the
Is it not
actual
video?
physical? That's what I'm wondering. Is it a little iPad at every table? I think it's more than that. So we're just trying to be fair in it and explore what all of that means. And so I'm working with Eric. This is a planner and code enforcement on that issue. So I'll keep you informed on what that really means since we figure it out.
Thank you. So just continuing into the annual meeting a little bit, Karen and I found a very good conversation with Dana Warrior on Tuesday, who has a lot to say and is very, very excited. I think he needs a little time to kind of get everything into 20 minutes. But I think he was right on track. We kind of asked him to explain to us sort of why they chose Scarborough, and it was sort of, I guess I'm breaking into two different parts to it. There was sort of some, I guess the word would be logistical things that they liked, that it was, the use was there, the land, a lot of the permitting was done.
And the partnership, there was a lot of discussion about, they really feel like, particularly these large projects, like, they like having a partnership with the
Yeah.
community, and it felt
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
dams have done.
Yeah, and yeah, okay, thank you. And then he was saying that it was sort of shovel ready. And he was saying that companies like IDEX, Farm, Bio, things move so fast that when they make decisions, anything that could help move projects along faster, that they just cannot waste time and money. There's projects that they feel, feel positive, confident are going to proceed in a timely manner, and really helps sway the decision. So that was sort of the first part. And then the second one was, I think even more timely, is they want a place where their employees are going to want to go, a place that's good for their employees, and that they're going to want to go to work. And I think when you look at what the Downs is becoming, that's a great story, because we want it to be a draw for businesses. And so sort of talked about both of those, but very knowledgeable. We totally, tie it to Maine, tie it to Scarborough, but I don't know if you want to add it. It's just I think it'll be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he's giving us a formula for attracting, I think, the emerging industries and the type of industries that I think we envision wanting to attract to Scarborough. So he's really laying a roadmap for the community about what's important to those companies, particularly fast-growing companies.
Yeah. Well, I think at the end I mentioned to him, I said, we've been hearing, we've heard from that the council wants to hear from businesses and residents. And I said, you check both of those boxes. So, depending on who's there that night, I think it would be a good speaker.
Yeah, it's interesting. The exemption, they're focusing on the residential permits. The conversation in my mind really needs to be about David and town center. When this gets out there, there's a lot of places that come in and just kind of round out that conversation. It's much bigger than just permits in front of us. enabling this next step, which I don't know anyone just that disagrees with, it, doesn't kind of share the vision like that. So that'll be the interesting thing to see. Not change the focus, but make sure the conversation really focuses on what's important.
Round it out.
Daniel's a great guy. But congratulations. I think he was recently promoted. He's in charge. He's global head. So,
Yeah, and that was another thing he was saying, is that I think we touched on this, that he was saying that a lot of times, because I think very initially, very early on, they were interested in pursuing a TIF.
Yes.
And he said, I'll be honest, he said, when we are choosing a site, he said, we typically will put out requests to a number of towns that we're looking for, and we'll see who gives us the best deal. That's normally what drives it. He said, in this case, that didn't happen, and so they chose Scarborough without that, and so that's
yeah, they made the request. I'm so thankful we didn't ever have to kind of have a hard no. We entertained the inquiry or the suggestion and kind of slow played it, and luckily it kind of doesn't matter.
And I think I'd like to think that there was a recognition too that there was there is a TIF in place that originally took care of some of the infrastructure investments. So they are benefiting, although indirectly. So I think I'd like to think there was some consideration of that as well.
They bought 22 acres. They clearly got that much land for the future expansion. So I expect that conversation.
Right. But yeah, it was a great discussion, and I think just great information for the business community and the counselors to hear. So I'm really looking forward to it. And again, bonus that he's a Scarborough resident.
Any questions or comments? You want to talk about
Sure,
the awards and selection process?
I think Magda sent you guys all the previous winners, are not winners, I guess we consider it recognition. So I knew Kevin wasn't going to be here, so I sat down with Kevin last week and went through a couple of different ideas. And so I put that for those of you who have the printout, I think I sent that separately too. It's time to let's make a list of folks that we think we want to recognize. I'm less worried about the title of the recognition. We can back into that. But these are some of the ones that we talked about. The Mint Salon Block is over here in the Enterprise Business Park. It's a model of individual studios that people who are doing salons and other spa type businesses, they can lease really beautiful, ready to go studios, and then they have some assistant help. It's like, look, it's a little bit like an incubator, except not everybody there is brand new, but it does provide all the services, some joint services and things like that to the different salons. So it's right over in the Enterprise Business Park. It's built and open, and they're leasing space. I think they either are nearly leased up or are completely leased up. This is the only picture I had, which is really a rendering, but the building is finished. And just a reminder, that is one of our criteria, is we want the business open. Certainly we usually use the end of August or so as a cutoff. We did talk about Landry French. They've done a redevelopment of their site, both the building and some work on the exterior as well.
Shameless self-promotion.
Hey, he's off the board now, right? It's okay. And Terracotta Pasta, new business. They've certainly been doing a lot of work. they've done some renovation to the exterior and to the interior. And then Lois's as a legacy nomination. Lois's has been here for, way past our requirement, which I believe is, I think it's 15 years, although I think you said it was 20. I can't
I think it
remember.
was 20.
Okay,
Um,
I think I would know that. but-
and the only other, well, while you're talking about legacy,
Mhm.
I don't know the answer to this question. How long is Heights?
It's been a while, and we
Yeah,
recognized
like,
Heidi a couple of
Recognize
years
that,
ago.
right,
Mhm.
yeah.
Or I
But
might
not
have
as a
been
legacy.
Before me.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. We also, I think, a couple of years ago, we were gonna, lost out, it was like its 39th year. Then we talked about recognizing Village Auto.
Did we do them
Is that-
last? I remember this came up last year and I thought we kind of said it was them and maybe was it the ice cream stand? And we said
Yeah.
we'll do one this year and the other next year.
Well, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
I mean, it should be a vote. I'm not
Right.
saying,
Right.
I think what happened was, is it was like their 39th year and they ended up, I think, losing out. I think maybe, so that we said, well, maybe it's just as well, we'll do them next year for the 40th. So
I couldn't
think-
remember which was which. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so. That, I just another idea.
Okay.
Residents for, oh my God, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the father passed away. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
that'd be a good one. As a possible legacy.
Right. And and I think they're pretty creative. They've been looking at some other alternatives and maybe separating, doing some, another site. So, yeah. Okay.
The Village Auto, just the gas
Oh, right.
gas station.
And then Crown Fit at the Downs was one of the ones Kevin was suggesting. Certainly a nice building. And then the one question I had is on renovation of the public safety building, the Firehouse Village. I think we all want to recognize it. It's the question of completeness. Like, do you do it this year? Do you say, well, we're going to wait until next year when everything is done? I don't know the answer to it. I think they could qualify this year just based on the fact that they're open and they're leasing. They've got people in both parts. I don't think the fact that the Avesta project hasn't started, since that's a residential project, has to enter into it. So, but it's up to the board to decide, is it complete and open?
Yeah, I mean, from a community impact standpoint and a visual standpoint,
Yeah.
the storefronts is huge. I mean, that's the part that we all appreciate, that we all get to engage with. So at the same time, we can appreciate that just as much next year, I guess. I feel like that's the part that everybody recognizes.
Yeah.
That's the enormous improvement that's been made to that neighborhood, is that store.
And Helen, Helen?
Yeah,
Oh, hi. Did you have a comment or?
I was on mute. No, that was the obvious choice to me, but I was just thinking the same thing, that it isn't quite complete, but I'm just afraid there'll be something else that comes up next year and we'll miss our opportunity. So I could go either way.
And like I said, we have some flexibility in how we establish the recognition, but is there, I guess what I would say is was just a prime the pump. Is this not an exhaustive list at this point?
Well, I mean, I guess what I would suggest is to have a deadline where everyone that has any businesses that they want to suggest send to you and Magda by, a certain date. Tell us that now or let us know after, and then we can, I think you normally just vote by
Yeah.
emails, don't we?
Yeah. You know what? It would be great to get this wrapped up sooner rather than later. It's just so much nicer to have, just because there's so many other things going on, it'd be great to have this wrapped up. So people are willing, if we could have, I'd love to hear any more suggestions today. But if you want to think about it as well and suggest others, maybe I'm going to be off next week. So, Monday, which is June, what is that? So it'd be the 27th. Monday, the 27th.
You'll be off, but people can still eat.
I was
Oh,
just gonna say,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
Maybe by the end, a week from tomorrow,
sure.
yeah.
if you get any businesses you'd like to, and don't, and I wouldn't worry about if
Right.
they've been recognized before. Karen can get back to us with that. You know,
Right.
If you have any businesses at all, just
Yeah.
send to Magda and Karen by next Friday.
Yeah, and I know a couple of business, I think Al's been on the list before, I think as a legacy. Is there anybody else? I think the legacy tends to be sort of like our most heartwarming, if you will, of the awards, because sometimes, we're finding businesses that have just been around for a while and nobody is, saying good job, and I think they really appreciate, being recognized. So Al's is the only one that I can think of that has been on the list before.
Has Ken's ever won anything?
They've been
around
around
Yes.
forever.
Yeah,
Okay.
And Tom Carey's always really good at that. Good.
Did Ken's win?
I believe it
Yes.
did long ago, a while back.
ago.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think by section of town. We feel bad because, Jim's business is thriving. He was talking about it just doubled since 2019, but it feels, I don't know what to do about that with it being a board member. That would,
Yeah.
you may have to wait. It's only 9 years, right?
Karen, don't give them an option to bow out of the board, like. just, give them
Right,
reason.
no. All right, well,
Don't
we'll give you an
forget
award
to
if you
see
say
it.
yes.
I would just say I like the idea of supporting something at the Downs. I think that does send a message that they're doing the things that support, that we think they're supporting the mission of SEDCO.
Is Toronto won anything?
I think they were,
Did they?
we looked at them against,
The therapy.
yes,
Therapists.
against Score Builders last year. So they were completed last year.
But that's a really big growth business.
Yeah.
And it's very popular. People
Right.
look for detail, and
Yeah.
and a number of our customers are members of their club, which is a great facility to work. It's really impressive.
Yeah, it's great. Our credit union joined as a member. And we, have a meeting there later today. So
What?
it's a great, you're right.
Well, it's true. I think we were looking at them as a new project. That doesn't mean we can't look at them as a different type of recognition too.
Rogers Ski and Bike.
Anything else come to mind?
Making Endicott furniture, home furniture.
Uh,
I don't know how long they've been around, but they've been there for a long time.
I have.
And how about the cheese iron? How old is the cheese iron?
You know what? They were recognized as a new business or a small business a while back.
Okay.
Paint opened last summer, but they might not have been open. But I don't know how that plays out.
Yeah.
Very
And-
good.
And Bailey's,
It's good.
Bailey's Seafood and Bailey's Restaurant. I know Mr. Bailey passed away this year. It might be kind of a nice tribute for his family.
And so the campground.
No, it's a different family.
Right,
So,
right. Multiple families.
So this was Stanley Bailey owns Bailey Seafood and the ice cream, and Bailey Seafood, which I think is a seafood processing company.
I know we recognized them a few years ago, and it's always tricky because there are multiple Bailey families.
Right. Yeah.
Which
Yes.
one? Which one was it?
Yeah,
Really just, Fred, the.
Yeah.
Passed away, and Tom, his son, was really just.
yeah, I was gonna say they had a very bad year.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, thank you for the suggestions again. Just think about it and send, and again, don't worry about who may, they can, Karen and Magda can sort that stuff out, but if you have any ideas, just, email them to Karen and Magda by a week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have a list of categories?
we can, but again,
We've been creative sometimes.
yes, you don't have to be limited by those
And creating
categories.
some.
Yes, yes.
All right.
And I think that's the way it should be with, recognition, So, yeah, we'll come up with categories, and if we do that, then, man, we are in business. And I think that's really all that we had to do. I don't know if anybody wants to, talk at all about Maine Veterinary Medical Center. There's not much to say other than social media moves fast, and
Well, just before we get to the, roundtable, the only reason to talk about, Maine Veterinary is because when we chatted, we talked about the idea of, the crisis management, and, I want, if you wanted to touch on that, Karen.
no, I think Jim and I talked about it after you and I talked about it, but I think aside from, wanting to understand what was happening at Maine Veterinary Center, I think trying to understand what crisis management is for a small business, and John actually has some contact, and I'll let you talk a little bit about that.
Oh,
but-
no, I mean, I just have a very close friend whose name is Chris Dobrik. He works with businesses, large and small, doing PR and communication and press. And I haven't spoken to him yet, but if there was an interest, Karen came up with the idea of trying to do something to educate businesses on, crisis management, communication, that sort of thing. And if there was an interest, I think I'd be happy to, reach out to him. And see, more than happy to. So.
And in the same vein,
You know,
the company that
Oh, you
had
did?
a PR release for the veterinary hospital. It's Alicia Knight and Crystal Canny. Alicia is a customer at Country Seafood, and they were extremely helpful helping us craft our COVID response. I had one. And they apparently did this one as well. And they're, I think they're based here in Scarborough.
Yeah.
So that they would be.
If they're based in
good-
Scarborough, I'm happy to use, I mean, Chris is a great guy, a friend of mine, but he lives in Cumberland.
Yeah, but
So,
I think
multiple,
it's, yeah.
but if there's someone in Scarborough, we'd like to use people in Scarborough, that's fine.
but I think a panel discussion of multiple, I think.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Multiple
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, I mean,
Good.
Ted Avitos,
Yeah.
he actually helped us put together a crisis communication plan. And we luckily not had to use it to any full extent, but I think I'd be happy to share like the template with businesses on how to create a crisis communication plan, because what you want to do is not have to deal with the crisis when it's happening, be comfortable in the process before a crisis happens. And so, but Ethos did help us with that, and I'd be happy to probably kind of put together a template or an outline for businesses to be able to have, at least start thinking about what it can look like.
Yeah, I mean, I would be interested in hearing what Jim and Jason have to say as small business owners. I mean, probably when you're trying to get through the week, and it's probably not on the forefront of what you're thinking. Probably don't think it's going to happen to you, but I have a feeling that Maine Veterinary didn't think that was going to happen to them that morning. And so it's, I don't know if it's something that you guys
Yeah,
think about. but-
And I think it was discussed at one point where even having a small business resource
Mhm.
page that we could go to quickly and then steer us in the right direction for anything that could come up, like John said, stuff that you never expect to happen would be extremely beneficial.
And I think it would be useful. I mean, what I'm assuming happened with Maine Veterinary, I know what's happened, other people wanting to do this, is that it got out of control for 24 hours.
Yep.
And Felicia and Crystal probably called them and said, hey, we can come in and help. And they're probably not the only ones who called. And it does put that business in this position of like, okay, now I have to pay someone to solve this. And if they can have some kind of advanced introduction to that world, they don't feel like now I have sharks coming at me looking for my money to get me out of trouble. And Felicia and Crystal are great, and so is Chris and everybody I know who did paying cash from them, I know does it. But I think that probably adds to the panic of
Yes.
like, now I'm fresh meat for somebody to make money off. So I think just introducing in advance, here's some people who are really good at it, and here's why it's not something we should be afraid of.
Yeah.
Maybe Ted could run that panel discussion. He was fantastic.
Yeah.
He came in with us.
You could moderate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? That is something that maybe we could do that at Highland. Use that facility because it seems, it's open and a little bit more fun and, or we can do it online either way, but sometimes in person is nice too if you get a lot of good experts together. And I mean, certainly,
Dialogue tends to,